What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Feud. Today we are talking our stardom and situms for Week 9. We have a quarterback, receiver, two receivers, one running back, a tight end, and a defense. So we're not going to mess around. We're just going to jump right into the things today. I can't talk, sorry. We got Justin Herbert versus Philadelphia. Mason, what's your take, man?
Let's get after it. Let's see here. First thing I want to mention, I love Jay Herbs, Big Herb. He's questionable right now with a right hand injury. Haven't heard much about it, so I'm guessing he's going to be okay. Had a disappointing week last week coming off a bye for fantasy owners. I do believe he'll come back this week and kill it. I do want to mention some fantasy points scored against the Philadelphia Eagles, though, just to kind of put things in perspective. Atlanta scored 7 points against Philly, as in Matt Ryan. San Francisco got 19. Dallas got 20. KC got 32. But then you look at Carolina, they got 9 points, and Detroit only got 9 points against Philly. Odds are good for Jay Herbs. I bet he has anywhere between 20 and 30 fantasy points. I bet he is a great start this week. He is a stardom in my category.
I'm going to keep mine nice and sweet and short. I'm going to say Justin Herbert is a start against Philly. Philly's defense isn't good, and Justin Herbert's coming off a really bad game against New England. Not even necessarily really bad. I mean, I guess 10 points isn't very good at all, though, for someone like to his caliber that you expect to get 25 out of every week. But he's going to be fine against Philly. Look for him to bounce back. That's all I got to say about that, though.
Paulie,
I'm going to agree with both of you guys. I say Justin Herbert is a easy start this week. Not to say that Philadelphia's defense is terrible, because they have shown some bright spots in the past couple weeks. Obviously, they just held a atrocious Detroit team to, I think it was like 9 points, blew them out by 40. And so I just kind of expect Justin Herbert to come in and settle that a little bit, tone it down for that defense, who is probably coming off a high of a game. And hopefully he gets back to that MVP status that we were kind of alluding to early in the season. He's got to get those wide receivers involved, though, and we'll talk about one of those in a little bit.
Yep. We're going to move into the only running – well, I guess it's two running backs technically, but it's both running backs for Jacksonville. Depending on if James Robinson is actually playing this Sunday, he avoided major injury this last weekend. He's playing against Buffalo, who is a very tough defense against the run this year, obviously. So, Paul, what do you think about James Robinson versus Buffalo this week?
I feel like as for any fantasy player going up against Buffalo's defense is kind of it's not going to be easy, I guess, treading. It's going to take quite a bit, and they're probably going to have to rely on him to where he kind of wears down that defense. So I'm not really sure if his ankle is going to allow him to be able to kind of go deep in the game and have 20, 25 touches. So I think Carlos Hyde will be sprinkled in periodically, like he was in the beginning of the year. I'd probably, if I have a better option for a flex or an RB1 or 2, I would think about sitting James Robinson this week as well as Carlos Hyde, just because of how well that defense is playing. But I mean, that's probably about what I have.
I'll go ahead and give you my input real quick. Simply, I am sitting James Robinson this week, and I am not playing Carlos Hyde. That, like Paul said, that Buffalo defense is tough. Looking at combined points, the best teams that have put up on them was Tennessee at 34, and we know why, because Derrick Henry is just a monster. He is an outlier, and the only other team to really make an impact was Washington, and that was, I believe, J.D. McKissick catching a bunch of points out of the backfield.
Well,
anyways.
it was also Antonio Gibson catching an 80-yard touchdown pass.
Never mind. That was that. Okay, so that's an outlier as well. Those were really the only two significant running back plays this year against Buffalo. So I am going to go ahead and bench James Robinson and not mess with Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, so Carlos Hyde was like my last person to target on the waivers this week just because the matchup he's playing, and at worst, James Robinson's only going to miss this 1 week. So Carlos Hyde, definite sit. There's no point starting him. However, I'm going to differ on your guys' opinions of James Robinson. I'm actually going to say to start him this week because you know how heavily involved he is in their offense. He is their offense right now. I don't remember the stat exactly when it was during the game last week, but it might have been like towards the end of the second or the beginning of the third. and they were showing the team's total offenses, and it was like with James Robinson in that first quarter that he played, he had 40 yards, and then the rest of the team since then had 40 yards also. So he is their offense, and if they're going to have any production, maybe even in garbage time, it's going to have to be James Robinson, in my opinion. So I say start him.
I like
think
that.
He's low-key a good flex play this week, and he's been one of the top running backs this year, so it's kind of hard not to start him if you do have him. And if you don't have any options under him, obviously don't start anybody over him. Like if you're like me and Mason and have Ronald Jones under him, yeah, I'd probably start James Robinson.
Oh yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on to our receivers. It's another thing about two guys on the same team, but the big name is DeAndre Hopkins versus the 49ers. He's got the hamstring injury. He's questionable. Did not practice today, Thursday. And it's looking kind of vague as to whether him and Murray, for that matter, are actually going to play. So, Mason, what is your opinion on that Arizona passing game?
My opinion, I hate hamstring injuries. They are a plague. Now, what do I think? I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to get out there as a decoy. That means he could end up with 2 catches for another 66 yards again and be super disappointing. And AJ Green is out with COVID status, COVID IR, and that leaves my boy Christian Kirk playing against this kind of soft secondary for the 49ers. They have allowed some points to the wide receiver position this year. I am making a play in some leagues. I am picking up Christian Kirk. I am starting him in my flex position or wide receiver position if I need to. So I think he's going to come out. I think Christian Kirk's going to have one of his better games this year. And yeah, that's my take on that. Paul?
Yeah, I'll get into it. I hope for DeAndre Hopkins' sake that he doesn't play this week. I feel like he probably shouldn't have played last week coming into the game with the same designation of a hamstring injury. Obviously, we seen him injure it pretty early or tweak it, I guess, not necessarily injure it because he was able to come back. So as a fantasy owner, which I have no stakes in him this year, but I just love him as a fantasy player from that perspective. I hope they sit him, can have time to try to heal that, especially if Kyler Murray's not playing. There's literally no point to run him out there. Now, if Kyler is playing and Colt McCoy doesn't have to be the backup turned starter, I agree with Mason where Christian Kirk is probably just going to flourish. He might take the number 1 spot. But just to throw another guy in here, I like Rondale Moore. They've tried to get him involved in multiple ways in the run game, in the pass, return game a little bit. I think if DeAndre Hopkins doesn't play, that it's going to be him and Christian Kirk that really do a lot of the work here. Zach Ertz might get sprinkled in here and there just to try to help him out in short, intermediate routes. But the absence of possibly DeAndre and AJ Green, I think it's just going to benefit both of them.
Yeah, this is a really tough situation. I'm going to say even if Hopkins does end up playing, I still think you start Christian Kirk this week just because he's been solid all year. He's been extremely reliable. And without AJ Green there, he's the number 2 option. And Mason said AJ Green's out with COVID. I think AJ Green's out with he just got kicked off the team for a week because of what he did last week against Green Bay. They had to.
Oh yeah, gosh.
I want to throw something in here real quick. I read a funny little quote, I guess, about him. They said that AJ Green decided he wanted to retire mid-play. Right when Kyler threw the pass, he just decided he was going to quit and hang up the cleats right there and allow the ball to get picked.
Who was that guy? It was like 5 years ago, maybe even less, that like retired at halftime during the game. That's kind of what that reminds me of. They were on like a
Wait,
team.
that legitimately happened?
Yeah, there was a defensive player. Like they were on a team that hadn't won a game, so he just retired at halftime.
He's like, dude, I'm done.
That's it.
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about.
I can't remember.
I can't think of his name, but yeah.
But yeah, going back on topic, I think DeAndre Hopkins, if he plays, is still a start candidate. I think, like, I know hammy issues. We've been talking about him all year, how much we hate him and how much people aren't going to flourish with them. But if he plays through it and he gets his targets from if Kyler Murray's playing, if Kyler Murray doesn't play, Hopkins not going to play. I feel like that's just like they go hand in hand together. Yeah. So I think Hopkins, if Murray's playing, he'll play and he'll be fine. He'll get like 5 catches probably for a set amount of yards and a touchdown maybe. He'll be fine. And Christian Kirk, like I said, he's going to be that start candidate no matter what. So I say start both of them.
I like it.
But it's really just dependent on if you're watching this video on Saturday and neither of them are active, I mean, you can just ignore this completely and just say Christian Kirk. Yeah, start him. Why not?
I like it.
Moving on to the next receiver.
Yeah.
Mason brought him up earlier, how we were going to talk about him. It's Mike Williams versus Philadelphia. He has been on a major downward spiral the last few weeks. So what's going on with Mike Williams in that pass game?
Well, let's see here. First 3 weeks of the season, he was one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. Week 4, he had another Mike Williams game, 1.6 fantasy points. Week 2, bounced back with 32. And then ever since we have week 6, he scored under 5 points. Week 7 was a bye. Week 8 scored under 5 points. Guys, I am scared about Mike Williams right now. I'm going to bench him. I'm scared. I mean, he might come out and have his game. Like, as of right now, he's going back to that unreliable. I don't know what to do right now. So when I don't know what to do, unless I absolutely have to start him, if I have another option, I'm gonna bench Mike Williams.
You know what's funny is he's like a deep field threat, just like the guy he's so similar to, Tyler Lockett, except he's huge and catches it over people, whereas Tyler Lockett just catches the bomb for a touchdown because he's faster than everyone. They're the same person. They are so dependent on their bombs every single game, and Justin Herbert can get you those bombs every single game. So it's just he's a boomer bust guy, and I think against Philadelphia, I think we're going to see a Mike Williams boom this week. I think he'll go over 20 fantasy points once more. I think he is an easy start against Philadelphia.
So having stakes in him, I 100% would love for Stones for wishing to come true, that he has a blow-up game because he's had a couple down ones in a row. He's also dealing with a lower body injury, which is something that has plagued his entire career. It's just throughout the season so far to where he's becoming almost like a Keenan Allen. He can be somebody that Justin Herbert can depend on. But now he's starting to regress back to where his career has kind of started off. He's had boom games, kind of go back to the bust games. He'll get you 2-3 points in a game. In the next game, he'll turn around and get you 27. So as of right now, I feel like coming off a bad game in general that the Chargers did, I think I would start him, and I believe that he'll have another, maybe not a blow-up game, kind of like Stone alluded to, where he'll get you 25 to 30 points. I think he's going to have a good game where he'll probably get you 7-8 catches, maybe close to 100 yards, and get you somewhere in between the 15 to 20 points against this Philly defense, who, again, like I said, I think they're going to kind of have a little bit of a hangover after having such a great game against Detroit last week. They're going to come into it. They're going to think that they're going to be able to do whatever they want. Justin Herbert's going to kind of right that wrong real quick for them. And I think Mike Williams is going to have a pretty solid day.
Yep, I completely agree with that because the Los Angeles Chargers are not the Detroit Lions. Philly's defense will go back to what they are used to being, and that is not very great. Their defensive front's good. Their secondary, not so much. Let's move on to the tight end position. This one's going to be an interesting one for a lot of you out there. He's just coming off of a not long, but kind of long-term injury. Darren Waller, he's missed a few games now. Playing against the Giants, favorable matchup. Terrible defense there in New York, even though they kind of halted Patrick Mahomes, but it seems like everyone's doing that at this point. Tennessee's defense did, for crying out loud. I don't know who isn't at this point. But Darren Waller, I'll just start it off. I think he might be a potential sit candidate this week. I know, obviously, if you have him, it's really hard to sit him. But even in the weeks that he's been healthy and played, he's been sort of inconsistent this year and hasn't really gotten that many points. Like, I think he's like probably averaging around 10 points a week right now. I don't know if he's had over 20 points yet. Maybe once or twice, but he's been inconsistent this year. He's been under 10 points a few times. I think coming off the injury and with all the drama that's been happening in the Las Vegas organization, I think you kind of just stay away from every Raider this week. But then again, who knows? Maybe they like go out there and just play like crazy this week because it's the Giants. I'm not too sure, but I say sit him.
Yeah, he scored.
I want to hop in here real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, Mace.
Very good.
I feel like he is going to probably be a primary target, him and Hunter Renfrow, simply because Derek Carr, I don't want to bring like his religion aspect into it, but he is very religious in his own right. So he brings that as a leader to this team. You've seen what happened in the wake of John Gruden being fired with the email scandal coming out. He basically brought them together underneath their interim head coach. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that man's name. They decided that they were going to come together as a team when they could have easily imploded after everything that had just been. And now in the wake of the incident with Henry Ruggs, I think that's going to be a similar situation. I believe that Derek Carr is going to be able to just bring this team together. And I think he's going to have to start relying on Darren Waller a lot more. Even though he's having a good season, I think he's going to have to do it in order to get Darren Waller back to where he has been as a tight end the last 2 years. And I don't know if it's the fact that he doesn't have to go to him like he has in the past, where Hunter Renfrow stepped up this year. Henry Ruggs was stepping up. Obviously, that's a sad situation, and we're not even going to get into that. And Edwards has stepped up this year. So he doesn't have to just target one guy in this offense anymore. He doesn't have to make him a Travis Kelce-esque tight end. And I think that's kind of been hurting Darren Waller's confidence a little bit. And so I believe that not because he has to, I think he's going to do it just because of Darren Waller coming back, that he's going to try to incorporate him into this offense. And so I foresee him having a pretty good day against this Giants defense.
Yeah, I like that take, Paul. It's pretty solid. I'll make mine short and sweet. You got Darren Waller. I think you have to start him no matter what. I'm not streaming a tight end to play over Darren Waller right now. I'll give you guys a little fun fact. The last 3 weeks against the tight end position, the Giants have allowed against the Rams 6 points, against Carolina 2 points, and against Kansas City Chiefs and Travis Kelce, they gave up 2.7 fantasy points. Depends on your league format. Might have been 4, whatever. So the last 3 weeks have not been favorable for the tight end. So if they keep that streak going, I mean, Darren Waller might have under 5 points for the fantasy position. So
Giants,
we'll see.
The Giants have good linebackers. They got
They do.
I can't think of his name right now. Logan Ryan, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, but they put James Bradbury on Travis Kelce the other night, and I don't know if Travis Kelce was just, he's just bought into all the hype and he's just having a, bad couple game stretch. But yeah, James Bradbury put him on lock, baby.
Yes, he did. So we're going to move away from the tight end position, and we're going to quickly glance up, get this video over with on the defenses. Right now, we are looking at a streamer defense, Arizona versus the Niners. Mason, what do you think about Arizona?
Arizona has been one of my favorite defenses all year. I drafted them with the intentions of them having a great season. They came out week 1, played great against Tennessee, and ever since then, I've just been like, heck yeah, dude, they're my team. They've had some ups and downs. They played Green Bay last week, didn't do so great. They're playing San Francisco. I believe they'll kind of put San Francisco on lockdown. It'll be a divisional game. It'll be tough. I don't think it'll be super high scoring. Jimmy Garoppolo's not great. That run game's been picking up a little bit over there. Deebo Samuel's been having some good games, but oh my gosh, guys, that defensive line for Arizona is sick right now. That being said, that defense is stout, but a divisional game could go either way. I have Arizona right now. I'm playing them just for the fact that I think they could have a 10-point fantasy performance. So that's all I need out of my defense.
It's a streamer defense. So if you have no
I think
other
you can
options-
agree with me on. I think you can agree with me on this, Stone. Every word Mason just uttered kind of brought PTSD back for me. Just because of last week going into the Bears game, knowing that it should have been a win for them. That defense of the 49ers just kind of it took over every aspect that Mason just talked about, whether it be Jimmy Garoppolo scoring 2 touchdowns on the ground and having Elijah Mitchell, the run game pickup, like you just talked about. So I kind of just toned down on a lot of what he said about the Arizona defense. But in that situation, I believe Arizona, like Mason said, they are a good defense. Their secondary is pretty well. They have lost a couple guys on the line, J.J. Watt, but they did get Chandler Jones back. They did get Chandler Jones back. They still have Budda Baker in the secondary. They have good corners. I mean, this team is very well-rounded. I think they are going to give the 49ers fits. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have the type of day he had in Chicago. I think their run defense is going to be able to shut down Elijah Mitchell better than what the Bears did. I foresee Arizona being a very top tier start if you have to stream somebody, which I highly doubt that they're even going to be on waivers, actually. Hopefully they are, and you have the ability to pick them up if you need them. But if I have Arizona on my fantasy team, I'm starting them with a lot of confidence.
Yep, I'll keep mine short and simple, starting Arizona's defense. And another thing to look out for is if the Niners are playing Arizona and they don't have Murray or Hopkins, you can start them very easily as well. So that might just be a defensive showdown in that
I like
game
that.
right there.
I like that.
All right, so that's it for the start of the Cinems today, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment down below who your biggest sit targets are this week, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the content today. We want to push out more stuff like this for you guys and help you out with the best fantasy advice and fantasy news as much as possible. Mason, get us out of here, man.
Fantasy Few out, baby. Let's go.